All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is February 6th, 2026. My name is Coach Carignan. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me today. If you ever noticed, it was the same strategy that I demonstrated yesterday in the members e-learning. It was the very same thing. All right, let's take a look at the markets today and see how I made 5,300. Let's move this out of the way. Take a look at the market. So, price on the 10-minute chart, 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. On the 2-hour chart, 2-hour uptrend coming into the close. All right, on the daily chart, we've got, let's pick up a new chart. Okay, you've got still in a downtrend. We made a lower low. Engulfing candle, higher high, higher low, closing over the bearish trap and over the flat 17. At the top of quadrant 4, here's our April low. This is the origin of the rally. All right, right there. Top of quadrant 4, that's still bullish, but in a downtrend, and a downtrend that looks like 2/3 of it has been erased. All right, so there's SPY on the daily. On the weekly, still in an uptrend. All right, and bullish on the monthly, still bullish and in an uptrend. Okay, so there's daily, weekly, monthly right there. 2-hour in an uptrend right there. All right, let's take a look at the market, see how I made 5,300 today. Let's move this over just a little bit. If you notice, I traded the same strategy that I demonstrated in the e-learning. All right, so market was bullish this morning. All right, early this morning. Let's take a look at the 10-minute chart, and you can see right here. Here's our 10-minute chart, and I drew a line, and I said this morning, if price breaks out over that line, I want to be bullish. So I bought calls first thing this morning. Let me go back and see where I showed you. Bought some calls. All right, here we are, 9:30, 9:35, 9:30, 9:32, 9:30, right there, 8, 9:30, bought 30 calls right there, right out of the gate. Okay, price ripping up over the base right there. Okay, I can see right through here. If you want to look at it, you got a series of lows, and then you got higher low, and then you've got more higher lows right here. So you can see price is pushing from behind, price going up. So that's why I bought 30 calls right out of the gate. And you can see we got a 10-minute uptrend that lasted all day and right into the close with kind of like a birthday trade right into the close right there. So there's a 10-minute chart. Look at the option. Let's take a peek at the option. Start with this one. We'll move it up. Okay, right there. Okay, you can see bought, sold into strength. Bought and sold into strength again. Same thing on the next one. Okay, I bought, sold into strength. And on this one, I bought and sold into strength all day long. Okay, every time price went up, sold into strength, sold into strength. Same one on this one right here. Bought, sold into strength, bought, sold into strength up there. Okay, that's it. It was the same strategy that I demonstrated in the e-learning room yesterday. All right, it's even recorded. If you want to go back and watch it, it's in there. We used it again today. We used it yesterday. We used it the day before. We used it the day before that. So we just use this same 10-minute strategy over and over and over. This thing pays off. The system works. All right, so there's a 10-minute chart on SPY. Let's take a look at QQQ. QQQ got a 10-minute igniting bar over the base, comes back, checks the original opening area and then comes back up, and you got a 10-minute uptrend all day long on QQQ. You can see 10-minute uptrend. The 3 is pointed up. The 8 is pointed up. You can see the mouth of the 8 EMA and the VWAP just grow in size. As soon as it stops growing, that's your clue to get out. Okay, see how it goes flat here? That's your clue to get out until it starts to rise again. Okay? Because all that does is just decay your options. All right, so there it is. Big 10-minute uptrend right there. You see the mouth between the VWAP and the 8 EMA just grow in size. SPY, the same thing. Okay, see the mouth between the 8 EMA and the VWAP line just keeps growing till it goes flat right here. All right, and then from there, starts to grow again right up there. All right, so there's 10-minute chart. So back to QQQ. And on QQQ, on the 2-hour chart, you got a 2-hour uptrend coming into the close, 10-minute uptrend coming into the close, daily candle, still in a downtrend. And you've got, it's going to be close. The low here is 594.76, 595. So higher low, higher high, bullish engulfing. Need to see follow through on that tomorrow. Closing inside the bearish trap under the flat 17. If we look at it with the quad lines on, here's your April low. This is the origin of the rally. We're up in a bull flag up here. Okay, so there's price action is in the middle of quadrant 4. All right, so that's bullish, but in a downtrend right now. Okay, bullish, but in a downtrend. Let's take a look at Stinker. Stinker got a lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap, under the falling 17 EMA, closing underneath the pink line. That's the all-time high anchored VWAP. Damn near coming into contact with the lower third down here. Almost making contact there. So there's Stinkers in a downtrend, and it's just neutral right now. Almost turning bearish coming into that lower third. All right, let's take a look at IWM. IWM got the bullish engulfing with a higher low and a higher high, closing over bullish cross over the all-time high anchored VWAP at the top, closing here at the top of quadrant 4. That's bullish, and you can see here's the origin of the move. So that's bullish. They made a low here. I mean, you can call it a downtrend or still in an uptrend with a pullback. Either way, it's bullish up here in the upper quadrant. It's still in the upper third. All right, so there's a pullback in an uptrend right there. That's IWM. Take a look at Diamond Dow. So Diamond Dow makes new all-time highs today. All right, clearly bullish and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at silver. Okay, silver higher low, higher high, closing under a bearish trap under the 17, still in the neutral zone. Silver is neutral and still in an uptrend. It has not made a lower low. Well, if you want to call this, I don't know if that, I don't see anything poking up through there, so it's still in an uptrend. All right, until it breaks this candle right here. So still in an uptrend on silver on the daily chart, but just neutral right through here. Let's take a look at GLD. Here's gold. All right, so here's gold makes there's the candle. Outside day, it's a higher high and a lower low, closing over bearish trap over the 17 EMA, top of quadrant 4. Actually, middle of quadrant 4. Okay, here's the 2022 origin of that move. Okay, up here in the middle of quadrant 4. Okay, so that's still in an uptrend. So that's bullish and still in an uptrend that's not moving up in the last 5 days. So there's gold. Let's take a look at USO. USO is an outside day, higher high, lower low, closing inside of a bullish trap over the rising 17, over the 4-year high anchored VWAP. Okay, it's post-COVID high right there. 4-year high anchored VWAP. Up in the upper third, so that's bullish. And still in an uptrend on USO. UNG is a higher low and a higher high, closing under a bearish trap, under the 17 EMA. Still in an uptrend, all right, hasn't made any lower lows. So, but still in quadrant 1. I'm going to take this out of the way. All right, take those out. And you can still see here, we're still down here in quadrant 1, so that's bearish, but in an uptrend. And you can see we're underneath, seeing complete failure to hold the higher ground. Remember I said we're watching this to hold the higher ground? Okay, so see the failure to hold the higher ground? So here it is up. It's still caught underneath this 12-month high anchored VWAP. Okay, that's UNG. Let's take a look at T2101. All right, so we gained a little participation today as the market rallied up higher. That is a nice sign. That's a bullish sign. That's something we like to see. That's T2101, T2122. We find ourselves up here in the overbought zone. We love that on the 15-minute chart. That works for me. That is bullish. Something I like to see is them hold that higher ground up there. We'll see what happens come Monday, all right? But we just did hit a downtrend line, okay? So I'll point that downtrend line out to you before we leave on the SPY. So there's T2122, that's bullish up there in the overbought zone. T2123, new all-time high. Okay, see that? Bullish gap up. Bears never filled the gap here. Never filled the gap here. Okay, never filled the gap here. Never filled the gap here or here. All right, so bulls are in control still. All right, in case you don't know it, they're still in control. 15 minutes, still in an uptrend. Up over the rising 200 SMA. New all-time high, T2123. So that's bullish and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at the 3-bar chart. 3-bar chart, clearly bullish. Top of quadrant 4, new all-time high. Clearly bullish and in an uptrend on the 3-bar chart. Up over this flat 200 SMA right there. Stinker on the 15. Stinker on the 15 does... well, there's a high there. And they made a higher high here. Not much of a high, but there's a high there. And they made a higher high. All right, and then they came in at the end of the day, made an even higher high. So they're in a 15-minute uptrend, but still underneath the 200 SMA, underneath the all-time high, pink line, all-time high anchored VWAP. Still in a downtrend, all right? On the 15, they're in an uptrend, okay, but on the daily time frame, they're still in a downtrend. Okay, so there's Stinker on the 15, trying to start an uptrend, get up over this 200 SMA, falling 200. Now, they were up there before, and they lost it. See, they went up, and they gave it up. All right, so we'll see what they do this time. All right, see if there's any follow through to that candle right there. So that's Stinker on the 15. Let's go back and take a look, and I want to show you guys the downtrend line that price action's hitting on the SPY. All right, let's take this out of here. Let's take this out of here. All right, let's zoom in. All right, so this is our uptrend line right here. And all I'm doing is connecting these lows. And you can see we came into that uptrend line right there. And then we have a downtrend line here. We broke that, so we're going to get rid of that one. All right, now I'm going to break out the 30-minute chart. And I'm going to back up. And you can see we don't need that. That's just confusing. And we don't need that. That's just confusing. All right. So all I'm doing is connecting this high, the all-time high, with the next lower high right there. And you can see it shoots through. And that's what we hit at the very end of the day right there. So I would not be surprised to see this thing come all the way back to VWAP and even then some, maybe back to this trend line one more time, maybe back to this, see the peak between two valleys, maybe even there. Hopefully it was a nice bullish engulfing day. Hopefully they get follow through. But they just hit a downtrend line, so we'll see how they're going to play it. All right, are they going to come back down and test the lows one more time, or are they going to give us the follow through and hold up over that downtrend line? So we'll see what happens come Monday. All right, we'll see what happens. All right, we're still bullish up here, holding. You can see price moves up and then holds the higher ground. So we're still holding, still bullish, not really moving anywhere, but we are definitely grinding away at overhead supply right through there. So there's SPY. So we could be on our way to 700, maybe 720, maybe 750. We'll see. That's a nice candle to get us started. All right, I'd like to see another candle like that, maybe just a little bit bigger. All right, that's it. So, Robert wants me to review what made me take a inventory of some SPY calls right at the open. All right, so let's go see that. Okay, all right, because he wants to participate next time. He doesn't want to be left out. All right, so I've got a double bottom here. All right, you with me? I've got a bottom, a failure to make a lower low right here. All right, and then from there, price rallies up to, see the W pattern right here? They rally back up there, and then I look inside here, right inside this area, right through there. I'm going to try to open it up wide as I can and scooch down in there so you can see it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I see a pullback low right here. Right there. Okay, I got a pullback low. Then I see another tail, okay, operate right here. So I got a little higher low right there. Then I see another higher low right there. Then I see price, it's in this consolidation right through here, and it's moved up and over to the right. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to thicken it up. All right, so now I'm going to move it over. I'm going to duplicate it. Okay, because I'm going to use a couple of them. So I see I'm going to change the color. Okay, so now I see price move from this low up to this area right here. And now I see price, okay, move to the right and hold the higher ground. Okay, can you see what I'm seeing now? Price goes up and holds the higher ground up here. Okay, they're consolidating, and I see this series of higher lows in these tails right there. Okay, and then I can see prices over VWAP. All right. Not to mention, we have a 10-minute, see this uptrend that just continues. And then it goes into consolidation right here with a series of higher lows right here on the 10-minute chart from 8 till 9:30. So an hour and a half of consistent higher lows through here. And that's what makes me want to take this to rip to the upside. See how they're leaning on the backside of this uptrend line. See right here? They're leaning on it. Remember, I'll back out so you can see it clearly. Okay, so here's our hourly chart. Here, go to the 2 hour. Okay, so here's our 2 hour chart. I'm going to pan over. Okay, and I'm just connecting the lows. Low here, low here. And you can see this was right here. See how they're right back there looking primed to rip up over it right there. Okay. All right, now this went up hard and fast. Okay, had it gone up and melted up, it would be a different story. All right, so just fair warning, I don't know if we're going to get follow through. All right, I don't see an exhaustion candle at the end of the move, but I just want to point out that this went up hard and fast, and sometimes they come down just as fast, if not faster. All right, and we hit that downtrend line right there. And I noticed price in the post market, see how it hit that line and produced not quite a sword candle, but definitely a wick candle. And again, more wick than body and tail. So could be price rolling over. There's no downtrend yet, but I'd like to see it hold over these two anchored VWAPs. This pink one is the all-time high anchored VWAP. Again, on the 2 hour chart, you can see that. That is the 2 hour high anchored VWAP. Okay, and the teal one happens to come from way down here. This is the origin of the move, all right? This is the origin of the whole rally. It lines up here on this chart, but anchored VWAPs do move around. They're not exact. Don't ask me why. It's supposed to be the average price, but it's not. On different charts, it lines up differently, and you can see where this lined up here on the 15. If I go to the 5, you'll notice it lines up right up with the all-time high anchored VWAP on the 5 minute. Okay, see how it moves around? And it's just the way that they calculate it. They take like, I don't know, the ending of one day, and that's what they use as the average price. Yeah, it was a nice ride up, but you can see on the futures they clearly gave up the top up there, and you can see it right here on the SPY. They clearly gave up the top here, so it'll be interesting to see what Monday pans out. Okay, because is this an inverse? Is this a bearish head and shoulders? That being the head, left shoulder, right shoulder? I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, but right through here was that series of little micro higher lows. That's price winding up. Whenever you see that, that's price winding up. Like you look at Intel, that's price winding up on Intel. Looks like it wants to go higher. Okay. Beautiful, everybody. All right. Everybody have a beautiful weekend. See you on Monday. Monday's an open house. All right. Hope to see you there. All right. I'll be busy as a bee. All right. So I'll see you guys on Monday. All right. Everybody have a beautiful weekend. Thank you.